Thank you, Mr. President. Although this issue of coronavirus was briefly discussed by this Senate yesterday, through an order by the chairman of the Health Committee, Senator Ibrahim Olorage, I felt that given the gravity of this issue worldwide, there's a need for this Senate to extensively discuss this issue, allow our colleagues to contribute fully so as to give the necessary advice to the government and to Nigerians. This is because this issue is a problem now, worldwide. If you open television now, the first thing you see on social media is quarrel. Even this morning, it was dramatic in this Senate. The Senate President came with leadership, but they could not give their hand to all of us. We had to do like this because of coronavirus. So I believe that even though the federal government has been doing its own part, the Minister of Health has been issuing statements to the effect that we should do this, we should not do this. We have this person suspected of being infected, this person is free of infection. I believe, and also the Lagos state government and Ogun state government, as well as the federal government, have been able to contain, to a large extent, this issue in Lagos. We believe that is not enough. Because worldwide, countries over the world, big and powerful countries like America, European countries, China, everywhere, they are taking very, very drastic measures to either contain or to prevent the coronavirus from entering their country. Even countries without the incident are taking very drastic measures to make sure they are protected. Even in Africa, countries like Senegal, Ghana, Rwanda, South Africa, Kenya, they have taken serious measures to protect their citizens. So I believe it is high time that we do something here as a country. Because if you take countries like even religious bodies, Saudi Arabia, for example, they don't have a known case, one single case of coronavirus. But they have taken coronavirus. They have taken very serious drastic measures. Even Kaaba, the holy Kaaba, which we all, as Muslims, we don't have any known incident in the history of Kaaba whereby Kaaba will stay without a person for about 2 weeks running. That's the first time in the history. Even the Vatican, they have already announced that they are going to celebrate Easter without full congregation. So this is a problem. And I believe that we as a country are also obliged to do something more serious than what we have done so far. Even though we may think that we don't have this problem here, we have about 3 of them in Lagos, but the thing grows gradually. America's case started from 1 to 3 to 5. Today, this morning, it was announced that all the 50 states in the U.S. have been affected. All the 50 states. So if we think that this thing will stop in Lagos, it will not stay in Lagos alone. It may leave Lagos to Ogun, to Oyo, and reach Sokoto, Maiduguri, everywhere, gradually. So, Mr. President, I believe that even though the federal government, I'm commending them, they are doing very well. At least if you come to this country through airport, you have to fill certain forms to disclose your own address, your own telephone number, your contact number, in fact your names of kin, so that you can be traced, and they check the people's temperature. But I think that's not enough. This country needs to be mobilized. We have to do like other countries have been doing, so that we will protect our citizens better. In view of this, Mr. President, I want to give the following prayers. One, this Senate should call on His Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, to personally address this nation on this issue. Other presidents have been doing that, including the U.S. President. Many countries, bigger countries than Nigeria. So I think to underscore the gravity of this matter, if Mr. President comes out personally himself and address this issue, I think Nigerians and citizens, Nigerians will take this matter more seriously. I'm not saying they are not doing something. The Minister of Health has been coming out on almost daily basis talking to Nigerians. But I think there is need for Mr. President to come out personally and do that. Secondly, there's a need for the federal government to take more drastic measures in addition to what they have done. And therefore, the measures should include, but not restricted or limited to travel bans, outright banning of some countries from coming to Nigeria like they have done in other countries, restriction on large gatherings, tighter border controls, stringent checking of people coming to the country, including mandatory 14-day quarantine, and any such other measure that the federal government deems fit to take in order to control this matter. C, let the federal government and Nigerians keep abreast of all the measures and developments related to this issue that's taking place worldwide. D, and finally, the Senate should give full support to the federal government in fighting coronavirus nationwide.
I want to thank Senator Gobe for bringing up this matter again, because when the chairman of Health Committee discussed yesterday under personal, we couldn't discuss it. Sir, it's a very serious issue. From information now, because our border is still porous, people from countries that have been banned from going to US are now using Nigeria as a route, coming through Europe to purchase tickets from Nigeria to travel to the US. By so doing, we're exposing Nigerians to dangers. Sir, the dynamics of this epidemiology is not yet fully understood. And the fact that we are not reporting cases would mean that we have the asymptomatic cases. And virus, by the nature, is capable of mutation, rapid mutation. It can mutate to a version that cannot be even treated with what we have now. And that is why if countries that have the capability to contain these epidemics or pandemics are taking very drastic measures, I believe Nigeria will take more drastic measures, particularly in banning the migration of coming into this country of people coming from infected countries, epicenters, particularly Europe. If we are talking of economy, should we continue to preserve our economy while Nigerians are dying? We can only enjoy economy when we are alive. So, Mr. President, I want this conveyed to the Ministry of Health that more drastic measures must be taken to ban people from countries that have been identified as epicenters from coming to Nigeria and not using the laxity in our system to use Nigeria as a route to countries where people from banned countries are using.
Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, DVM. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to commend distinguished Senator Goje for making it possible for us to discuss this matter once again. The issue at stake is one that calls for caution, but at the same time is one that calls for very, very proactive measures. Like the deputy leader said, the epidemiology of this virus is just being understood. In essence, the way the virus is transmitted, either from its natural source to the human population or within the human population, and how it spreads, and how it develops the symptom and other things associated with the disease, is what the epidemiology is talking about. And here the worry is that if you have followed what has been happening over the past 1 month, when this thing started in the US, it started with one person in Washington. And it was being said, it was in Washington, and it was being said that, oh no, this is being contained. But then, because the understanding of the epidemiology was weak then, they didn't know many people had traveled to where this disease had already, been confirmed, and they came back as asymptomatic carriers. Today, the situation is that in the US, all the 50 states as at this morning have reported one case or the other. So this is why we must take this issue very, very seriously. And the point here is that there are people who are having the virus, but there is no symptom. There is no cough, there is nothing, they are just there. So I think that is the danger. And I want to say that, of course, so far so good, as at this morning we are told we have only 3 reported cases. But the question is, many people have traveled to countries where there are cases that are reported, either 1, 2, 3, hundreds, and the like. The question is, let's be very serious. For us to deal with this matter, the individual's contribution is key. What is being said is that those who have traveled to areas where there is serious problem, the epicenters, they are asked to do self-isolation. Are we serious with this? I doubt if we are serious with this. And I think from the submission of the mover of the motion, that of course in the airport, it is being made to look voluntary. While it is okay for it to be voluntary, but I think the expectation on you as an individual is that you must help your colleagues, you must help your country, you must help your family, your citizens, so that we can take this issue very seriously. I want to submit, if you look at our health facilities, it's not in the best of states. And even countries that have the best of facilities are grappling and have gone into lockdowns as it is. So this is why we must call on the Federal Ministry of Health to provide leadership. Let them bring all the public health team that they have within the country so that they can review our strategy and provide appropriate guidance to our political leadership to do the needful so that we can actually contain this. Nigeria has a very good history of doing that. We have contained rinderpest before, we have contained avian flu, we have contained Ebola, we have contained SARS. So I think we have the experience. But what is important is let us not lose our guard.
Give us an information, because if you know the origin of a problem, it enables you to prepare well, both physically and spiritually. Mr. President, I want to inform us what a French metaphysician said about the coronavirus in mid-15th century. A man that is well known to most of us here, that some people call him the man who saw tomorrow, Nostradamus. He said this in 15th century about for coronavirus, that there will be a twin year, that is 2020, from which will arise a queen, Corona, who will come from the east, China, and who will spread a plague virus in the darkness of night on a country with 7 hills, Italy, and will transform the twilight of men into dust, that is death, to destroy and ruin the world it will be the end of world economy. Now,
Sorry? It will be the end of... Oh, okay.
Mr. President, Nostradamus was not a follower of God. Nostradamus was a metaphysician. But God can give the gift of seeing tomorrow to even a witch. Most of us here go to witchcraft. They beat ground. Some of them, they tell us.
No.
And that we should be doing is to better our relationship with God. Number one. Then number two, we are the largest black nation in the world. And our borders are very porous by certain conventions we have signed with our neighbors. The ECOWAS Convention, for instance, allows free movement everywhere. We are aware that this case is already established in Senegal, in some other West African countries. They can move in. This has been one of our greatest albatross, that we are not able to contain insecurity because our borders are porous. Members from the Maghreb, they move in freely and inflict harm on us, killing us for sport. We cannot contain it. The danger that this virus will bring upon us because of our policies, maybe regional policies, will, if we are not careful, will be worse than what is happening to Italy. So my own take, Mr. President, is that let us look inward and begin to, because this idea of cleaning hand is not even a solution, because somebody who has it, if you...
The distinguished Deputy Minority Leader, this washing of hand is scientific and it's an advice to Nigerians, so let's not discourage it, please.
Who, like my colleague said, that want to take Nigeria as a route, we should stop them at the border. Once you are not in Nigeria and you are transiting through here, from there we stop you and then you go back to where you are coming from. I think this will also help us in reducing this to a minimal level. But above all, search yourself, judge yourself and get closer, because you cannot avoid certain death, so that God will welcome you home.
And it's like you believe in, or you agreed with him. That man didn't believe in God, you said so yourself. And then you are saying we should... Okay. Senator George Thompson Sekibo. Chief Whip.
George Thompson Sekibo. I will be very brief with a write-up in a book, The Eyes of the Storm, published in 1981. In a paragraph, the author, Dean Koons, has this to say: in around 2020, a severe pneumonia-like illness will spread throughout the globe, attacking the lungs and the bronchial tubes and resisting all known treatments. Almost more baffling than the illness itself will be the fact that it will suddenly vanish and quickly as it arrived, attack again 10 years later, then disappear completely. Mr. President, if you read the novel and you go down, the author, maybe a seer, quoted the number of people it will destroy within a short time before it will go away. We all are in the same problem. Italy was not expecting it. It has come to it. Mr. President, let me just give you an update for 2 days. In Spain, 2 days ago, it was 7,353 infected, with 288 dead. But as of today, 11,748. You see the spread so wide. In Italy, 2 days ago, it was 31,506. No, 24,747. But as of this morning, 31,506. With the death toll raising from 1,809 to 2,503. Let me just start with these two countries. So you will see that even those that have the technology to handle the problem, the thing is spreading without respecting president. What are the other names? Every person.
Even senior president.
President, my friend, the senior president, ministers, senators. He does not respect any person if you don't keep to the rules. So we have a problem. Nigeria and Africans, we have a culture. My sister was saying about that one. If you don't shake hands, it's like you don't love your person, it is passive. We have to let the Ministry of Health come with real standard of how to behave now. There are many of them on the social media, but let us develop also our own. This one is good enough, sanitizing our hand is good enough, washing it is good enough, shaking with the help as the James manager brought from Edo or Delta is also good, but we have to develop much more better ones to face it. These advanced countries, many of them have locked down or shut down. Two different words. Schools, offices, airports, and so on, they are now empty. We have a problem. Our airports, sir, they are still open. Our seaports are still open. And we don't have the machineries and equipment to really fight this coronavirus. We don't have it. You don't have the equipment. You don't have the facility to fight. And you are even opening your borders. So it is more threatening. US has everything to fight it. Italy has everything to fight it. China built an hospital, as we had to do some say to something hours or so, or maybe 1 week. They built 1,000 beds hospital.
10,000.
In Nigeria, 10,000. In Nigeria, sir, 10,000 bed hospital to build will take us 10 years. We cannot build. By the time we build the hospital, every person must have died, except those who are very protective. Now, no matter how you protect yourself, because you don't want it, but you are in a church, you are in a mosque, somebody has it 2.5 meters away from you, transmit to you when he sneezes. Even as in this chamber, it is not dangerous to sit with somebody who comes from Europe. That is the truth. That is the truth. Mr. President, please tell us first. Let the law start from us. Let no one travel out now from this chamber to either Dubai, Europe, anywhere. We should all be here and support Nigerians to fight this battle. Because when you travel and come back, you will not know until after 14 days. Then you come and sit by me or behind me or somewhere.
I can't. Chief Whip.
Mr. President, I think I'm making some points. But yes, it is good for all of us.
It is on record.
No, he said he give me 1 minute.
Okay, no, you have 30 seconds, round up.
Thank God that most of the food we eat in Nigeria are produced in Nigeria. So we should commence restocking our storage silos. We should commence restocking. Well, I'm just making suggestions. Me, I'm not making suggestion now. If I take it as prayers, you take it as prayers. Mr. President, they are, and let us quarantine whoever is coming from outside. If big countries can stop people from entering their country, why can't we do so? So my prayer is that we must be more careful than the advanced countries because we don't have the resources to fight it. Thank you very much.
President Ebonyi North, Senatorial District. Mr. President, I do not intend to go to the areas my colleagues have all spoken about. Mine is just to advise or suggest. The Secretary to the government has issued directives. Can we, like my colleagues have said, start from here? This is the adage that charity begins at home, and that prevention is better than cure. We cannot stop people from traveling, but can we advise that as legislators, senators, if you have reason to travel outside the country and come back, can you quarantine yourself for 2 weeks before entering this chamber? Yes. That's my suggestion, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ibrahim Hassan Hadeja, Jigawa, Northeast. Mr. President, I
very quickly just want to caution us against repeating some of the misinformation that is out there. The problem we have, is more to do with management of information. And I think we are basking in the euphoria of how we manage the Ebola crisis when we are talking about two different things. This is completely new. This is an airborne disease. This is a disease that is just now, the scientists are struggling to even find out how it spread, the contagious nature of it, and so on and so forth. So for us to be drawing parallels between the fact that we succeeded in Ebola, I think it's a big mistake, Mr. President. Secondly, I think it's time for us to take drastic action before we are forced to. When China shut down almost 23 cities and 50 million people, a lot of the Western world was criticizing and raising issues of personal liberty and so on and so forth. Today, the 1,000-bed hospitals that they built in 1 week are all empty. China has effectively contained the disease, and everyone else is struggling to do what China did, when they realize. I think we need to do that, Mr. President, because we simply don't have the facilities to contain this when it gets to the tipping point. Now we're talking about 3, 4, 5 people. By the time it gets to 20, it becomes exponential. We are seeing things moving from 15 to 150 to 2,000, 3,000, and then it goes completely out of control. So I think we need to come out and take drastic measures, just like our whatever, because some of the misinformation, I think, is what is giving us this impetus. You read things like this thing cannot survive in Africa. You read things like somebody predicted it. All these are news that people concoct and spread about that adds to the misinformation. So I think we need to take charge, Mr. President. We need to make very, very strong pronouncements about taking additional measures. It's not about the economy. It's a global thing. In fact, there's a very strong position that the global economy is already in recession because of this pandemic. So we can't isolate ourselves. We need to do the right thing, and focus more on prevention. Because if we don't and it gets out of control, I don't believe we are in a position to do what we are seeing now happening in other countries. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues.
Additional prayer.
We just have to make progress, please. I'm sure that we have said so much about this. This is the most important issue that every part of the world is concerned with, and we are part of the world. We have our own share, even though we are lucky. We have recorded very few incidents. But that is not to say that we should be complacent. We shouldn't rest on our oars. We must ensure that we marshal all the available resources to protect our citizens. So many theories are flying around that Africans are immune to this. In fact, I watched one of the comic sent out in the social media, Ebola. In fact, coronavirus called Ebola, and Ebola asked, Ebola called coronavirus. He said, "Where are you?" He said, "I'm in Nigeria." He said, "What are you doing in Nigeria?" "I didn't survive there. When I went there, the Nigerians killed me, blah, blah." So that you cannot affect any Nigerian. But I think we need to be very careful. This is something that is entirely new to the world. So if we feel we are safe, I think that will lead us to complacency. We should work with the executive arm of government to ensure that we provide those facilities. The idea of getting testing centers particularly. Yesterday, when our chairman committee on health came under order 43, we observed that in the entire southeast there is no testing center. In the entire north there is no testing center, and that is dangerous. In the south there is one in Irua in Edo. Edo is part of south, and that is dangerous. We have to have testing centers in the minimum one at least in each geopolitical zone, in the minimum. And of course, the isolation centers, states are doing their best, but we need to have a standard which must be set by the Federal Ministry of Health, so that the states comply with those standards, specifications that are necessary. I believe that we were on the same page with the executive arm of government. While this debate was going on, someone walked on to me and said, already the federal government has banned 13 countries from entering Nigeria. And this is what we are also trying to suggest. But I think there are so many other things we have said here that we need to push out there to the executive arm of government to ensure that these things are attended to. Nothing here is frivolous. Everything we have said here is because we are concerned with the health of our people. And this is not going to be a fight that the federal government or the state governments or governments can do alone. Every single citizen of this country is supposed to take part in this, because nobody is going to wash your hands for you or use the sanitizer or keep away from people. Our colleagues would have noticed that in the last 2 days, the regular or our usual way of shaking hands, we have tried to avoid it, because we should show a very good example to our citizens that this is one of the ways that we are asked to behave. We would have loved to continue with that process, but we should show to the public that we are compliant with what the Ministry of Health is advising that we do. So I want to really congratulate the mover of this motion, Senator Mohammed Danjuma Goje, for coming up with this motion. I always allow Senator Olurogbe to come last. Don't get worried about that, because I always allow you to look at the entire presentation by our colleagues. You are a medical doctor, and see where the loopholes are, so that you can always intervene last, having seen the areas that you need to intervene. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Leader of the Senate.